Hey everyone, and welcome. If you've ever been curious about building your own app using generative AI, well, you've landed in the perfect spot. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the OpenAI API. This is going to be a super practical step-by-step guide to get you from, a blank screen to your very first AI-powered application.
Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to build a really clean, solid development environment. Then, we'll talk about the super important topic of security. After that, we'll make our first call to the API, the hello world moment. Then we'll get fancy and learn how to give the AI a personality. And finally, we'll make our app feel super responsive with streaming. Let's dive in.
All right, first things first, we need a solid foundation. We're going to use Docker to create a perfect and, more importantly, a repeatable development environment. This is going to make sure our code runs the exact same way every single time, so we avoid all those, well, it worked on my machine headaches. Now, you might be thinking, what exactly is a Docker file? Well, this quote right here just nails it. It's like you're getting a brand new, fresh computer out of the box, and you're just writing down a simple checklist of all the steps it needs to take to get set up perfectly for your project. So, how does this checklist actually work? Well, it's really built on 4 main commands. First step, from, which is where you pick your starting point, your base operating system. Then you copy your code right into this new world. After that, you run the commands to install all the tools you need, like the OpenAI library itself. And finally, CMD tells the computer, okay, now that you're all set up, run this command to start the app. It's simple, but so powerful. So, with our environment all set up, it's time to actually get access to OpenAI's models. And for that, we need an API key. Now, listen up, because how we handle this key is, without a doubt, the most important part of this whole process. Seriously. To do this right, we use a 2-file system. On the left, you've got something like .env.backup. Think of this as a public template. It just shows what secret keys the project needs, but not what they are. It's totally safe to share this in your code. But on the right, that's the real deal, the .env file. This has your actual private API key. This file should never, ever, ever see the light of day on a public repository. Why am I being so dramatic about this? Because your API key literally is your money. Every single time that key is used, you get a bill. If someone else gets your key, they are spending your money on their projects. So the takeaway here is simple. You have to protect it just like you would your credit card number.
So how do we get those secrets from the file into our code without, pasting them right in? We use this fantastic little library called python.env. It's a lifesaver. It automatically finds that secret .env file and just loads the variables into our app's environment so we can use them securely. No hard coding needed.
All right, our environment is built, our keys are totally secure. I think it's time for the main event. Let's make our very first call to an OpenAI model and actually get a response back. It's actually surprisingly simple to connect to the AI. It boils down to 3 core steps. First, you create a client. It's just an object from the OpenAI library. Second, you use that client to call the API. And third, you just have to give it 2 things: which model you want to talk to, and a list of messages, which is basically your question. Now, when the API sends something back, it doesn't just send plain text. It sends a whole structured object. To find the actual answer, you have to kind of dig for it. Think of it like opening a nesting doll. You start with the main response, then you open up the choices list, you grab the very first one, then you open up the message inside of that, and finally you get to the content. And that's it. That's the good stuff. Okay, so we can talk to the AI. That's awesome. But let's take it a step further. Let's learn how to control how it talks back to us. We can do so much more than just ask it questions. We can give the AI a personality, a role to play, and even specific instructions. And the way we do this is by using 2 primary roles in that messages list we talked about. You've got the system role. This is where you give the AI its marching orders, stuff like, you are a helpful assistant, or you are a pirate. Then you have the user role, which is just, well, it's you. It's your actual question. And check this out. This shows you just how powerful that system role is. On the left, without one, you ask about recursion, you get a dry textbook answer. Totally fine. But on the right, we add a system role that says, you are a poetic assistant, and boom, same question gets this beautiful, creative, poetic response. This is how you really start to tailor the AI for your app. All right, for our last section, let's talk about something that can make or break an app: the user experience. You know, when you ask the AI a big, complex question, the last thing you want is your user just staring at a loading icon. You want the app to feel responsive, to feel alive. And that is where streaming comes in. Just look at the difference here. Without streaming, you send a prompt, and you wait, and you wait, and then this giant wall of text just pops into existence. It feels slow, right? But with streaming, the second you send the prompt, words start appearing one by one, just like someone is typing a response to you in real time. It feels instant. It feels like a conversation.
So what kind of complex, high-level code do you have to write to unlock this amazing feature? You're not going to believe this. It's one single parameter. When you make your API call, you just add stream equals true. That's it. That's the magic switch that completely changes the feel of your app.
So what's happening under the hood is that instead of one big response object, the API sends back a stream. In your code, you just have to loop through that stream, and with each little pass of the loop, you grab a new tiny chunk of text as it arrives. You just keep adding those chunks together, and that's how you create that live typing effect for your user. And just like that, we're at the end of our road trip. We've gone all the way from setting up a rock-solid, secure environment to actually talking with an AI, shaping its personality, and getting its responses back in real time. You literally have the fundamental building blocks now. You have the keys to the car and the map of where to go. So, really, the only question left is, what are you going to build first?